And the evil Shredder attacks. Give me a break. Boys. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Franchise Unpacked. This is your host, Dave.
And this is Zach. What's going on?
Not much, man. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. It's rainy.
It is.
The power went out earlier, so we're recording this on the laptop. I hope the laptop lives.
If we lose power, we'll add it into the episode.
Right.
It'll be dramatic effects. You'll see a little behind the scenes.
Well, that's what. Anytime the power flickers, and I'm gonna just be full disclosure here. I've been playing Mario Maker for about 2.5 hours, and as I was playing it, I just did. Like, it was about an hour and a half worth of work, and my lights went, and I was like, go to the save!
Gotta save now!
I was like navigating to like the little save icon, and I saved it. The
horror.
Nothing was lost.
It doesn't auto save. Not for something like that.
No, because they don't want to, they don't want to have you overwrite anything. So,
but on this wonderfully rainy evening, I'm glad it's raining. We needed it here. But we have a very special guest in the studio this evening. We are joined by the lovely, wonderful Mike Dans.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Not
good, man.
bad.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, A little rainy, a little wet, a little cold.
Yeah.
You're soggy boy.
Soggy, but I don't want that.
Soggy boy.
But yeah, and
New Instagram handle.
Yeah, and since you
at Soggy Boy.
At Soggy Boy. Since you've clicked on the episode, you already know we're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Mike's been he's been wanting to come on the show for a little bit now, and he's like, what can I do? And we were like, well, there's X-Men, there's all these other franchises, but there was like, I know Mike loves Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I do.
And it was tough too, because we have a lot of buddies who are super into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or as I like to say, what is it from the one meme? It's like Teeny Mutant Needle Teetles or something like that. But we have so many people that just love this franchise. I've had people reach out like, hey, can I do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Hey, can I be on this? Like,
I'm happy to be that guy.
Yeah. You made it. You made the cut.
Yeah. No, that's super awesome.
Absolutely. And we like to start, episodes with our history. And Mike, since you're our guest, when do you remember your first, what was it? Where were you? Yeah. What was your first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
So my first experience, I was born, I'm a May baby. So I was born in May.
A maybe?
A maybe. Call me maybe.
What would you call him earlier? Something boy?
Soggy boy.
Soggy boy.
The maybe soggy boy.
Maybe soggy boy. So for my first Halloween, which I was like 5 months old at that point. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 months. Yeah. My mom dressed me up as a Ninja Turtle. Like, just
fantastic.
Out of the blue. Just like, there are pictures. There's pictures of baby
Which
Mike
turtle were you?
It was a red bandana.
So Raphael.
Or just a generic turtle.
Turtle.
Yeah, I mean, it was like an officially licensed Ninja Turtle kind of costume. Yeah, I wish she still had it. I don't know.
Wear it.
Maybe she does.
Yeah. What I mean, if you're not opposed to divulging this on the show, what year were you born?
I was born in 90.
Okay, so same here. So it's
like the height of Turtle Mania.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And it's funny because the height of Turtle Mania was still when the Turtles were relatively new. I mean, they weren't super old at that point.
No, only about 5-6 years of that, because they started in 84.
Yes.
But yeah, before we get into their history, what about you, Zach? What was your first?
So for me, it was a kind of a combo. So as we've talked about many times on the show, I have an older brother, 7 years older than I am, and he was super into the Turtles. So I was like, okay, well, I'm obviously going to be exposed to it from that. And he had the TMNT NES game.
Oh, yeah.
And just brutal.
Oh.
And I remember, I don't know why, I remember so specifically there was like a tank driving on a road from like an overhead view or something like that.
It's the turtle van, right? It's the turtle van. It's the party van.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So
it's supposed to be the party van.
So I remember, that's like all I remember from that game.
8-bit glory.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I remember that game. You would drive around on the city top, and then you go into the sewers.
Yeah.
And
it
play these
tough.
just insanely
and you
difficult.
come up in the next area in the grid after you got through your little side scroll.
So there was that, and then there was the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which my brother loved, and then I subsequently loved. And to this day, it holds up.
The first one?
Oh, yeah.
It does,
it's so good.
Yeah.
I think so.
So that was that's kind of what brought me into it. And, on this episode, obviously we have a couple more experts in the room than I am, but I've always loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I never, dove into it head first. I never... I didn't watch any of the cartoons really. Well, some of the cartoons when I was a kid, but not enough to really remember it. And I've always loved the video games, but it was the type where I would beat them once and I'd be like, okay, I'm done with with the video game. So it's been really interesting for me to be able to like look all this stuff up, in preparation for this episode and kind of re-fall in love with the franchise. But what about you, Dave? I'm going on.
It's kind of the same thing for me. I have an older brother as well. He's 4 years older. He was born in '84 when the Turtles were created as well. Yeah. So I was just born into it. All my memories, I remember he was getting the toys. We had the NES game when it was one of the first games we got with our NES. And then we got the arcade game when they ported it to the NES, and that was amazing. The Ninja Turtles arcade. Was it Turtles 2? No, Turtles in Time was the second one, wasn't it?
So there was the NES game was TMNT, and then on NES still they had TMNT the arcade.
Yeah, the arcade game, which was
like the 2-button, like you can walk and hit things. That's all you.
It was a beat 'em up, yeah.
Yeah,
and then in the movies, like you said, my brother even had a whole bed set, and we still have the blanket. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like. The sheets and the blankets and pillowcase and all that stuff.
I have the same one.
I'm pretty sure we dressed up like them at Halloween.
Every boy in the 90s.
Yeah, I definitely had that bed set.
Huge. It was huge, and we loved pizza, and it was it was everywhere. So it's always been kind of in my mind. I don't remember a time when that wasn't.
Kind of a funny thing about that, the first Turtles game, when it went over to Japan, it was there. It was the same game, but it was underneath a different name. So at that time, TMNT didn't really blow up in Japan. It was just like another game for them. It wasn't until that second game came out that they actually labeled it TMNT, and then I was like, oh, this is a franchise that was built up. So I thought that was really interesting that in the States it was big, but then over in Japan where you would kind of assume that's like that's where I think of video games starting now, not finishing.
Yeah,
it seems backwards by today's standards.
It does, especially about ninjas. Come on. So a little bit of background for those of you who don't know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was created in 1984, originally being published as a comic book by Mirage Studios, created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. I read a funny little thing that they were both benefiting from a tax refund and a loan one of their uncles had given them, and then they were able to produce one copy, and then it took off from there. And everybody's kind of I think in everybody's kind of knowledge is that, the comic books were so gritty and violent and there was blood, and they were dark. They were killing Foot Clan members.
They were made for adult, basically.
And this is a time when also the Turtles were a little less distinct, or individually, they were all wearing the red bandana. They were kind of like part of a team. They didn't have their individual colors and stuff like that. Then it kind of... They said that they created the comic. They kind of styled it after the most popular comics of the time, including Daredevil, Ronin by Frank Miller, which is about like a bunch of samurai, basically. And then there was the New Mutants comics as well. But Mike, did you read? I know you're a big comic fan. Did you ever read any of the comics or graphic novels?
Yeah. I mean, they're really good. The first issue is I have a reprint of the first issue because the original first issue sells for hundreds now. If you try to find it, And the first issue when it was made was they didn't have any money for distribution and stuff, so they were basically going door to door to comic book shops asking them, hey, do you want to buy a few issues of our book to sell on your shelves?
No way.
Yeah, they didn't have the money to do anything.
That had
else.
to have taken forever. To get a full distribution out there.
Yeah, but that makes it even more rare if you have the original first print issue.
Right.
My friend Mike actually used to work for a comic shop in Boston, and he was in his 20s, I think, at the time, maybe late 20s, and he remembers them coming to the door at the time being hey, not Peter and Laird, but Eastman and Laird, but the distributor Mirage walking up to the door and being hey, wild. Do you guys want to buy any of these books?
I wonder if that would fly nowadays. Because I have a couple of buddies that wrote and they printed several copies of their comic, and it was incredible. It was shout out to John and Justin Grosjean. They're the same guys that made that Skyrim 2012 video that went super viral on YouTube. I'll show you guys later. It was super cool. But they made this comic that it was basically instead of detention, this teacher, while these kids were in detention, would play D&D with the kids. And so you kind of dove into their D&D world.
That's cool.
So it was going between high school and this D&D fantasy world. But anyway, I'm just thinking what would happen if nowadays you took and just literally went to comic shops and said, hey, here's a stack of my comics. I don't know if that would fly. I don't think
so.
Do it.
No, I don't. People would be so scared of getting sued for something.
Yeah, like sued or just afraid of like buying stock of something that
like we don't know what this represents. It's like you guys could be secret Nazis. We don't know. this could be could be propaganda as far as secret Nazis. You got to be scared.
The world's a much more fearful place.
That's secret Nazis.
That's their poster. Secret Nazis. You got to be scared.
You got to be scared. You got to be scared. But
I'm sorry.
I thought one of the more interesting things about the series, going past the comic books, they were tossed around from publisher to publisher for a while until they were confronted. Gentlemen wanted to bring the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into the light of merchandising. They wanted toys, start Dark Horse and all that. Yeah. Those companies, they were like, let's get these little figurines getting out. And then it just blew up. And they said that kind of caused, they were like, oh, well, we're making toys. We will be marketing these to a younger audience. The goofiness started coming in. The heroes in a half shell.
Right.
Green against brick is what they call it, like that.
So Playmates Toys was the publisher, right? Yeah. They were the toy publisher that picked them up. And Playmate, if you look back, like Playmates Toys didn't make anything. Like even today, they have very few properties, really, and it's
really
nothing nearly as impressive as the Ninja Turtle stuff that they picked up. That's wild. So it's kind of like Star Wars and Kenner, where like it was just like a company that was kind of going under.
Speaking of
Miracle property came by.
There's a Netflix series about the toy that's like
Toys That Made Us.
Toys That Made Us. The Star Wars. It's fascinating. Star Wars. Those guys were like, we were literally melting other toy pieces together just to show them, like just sort of a model.
Wow.
Just to like
the guy cut up his sock.
Yeah, he cut up his sock
like for the Jawa cape.
A brown sock. Yeah, and he could put it on because he was like, we didn't have cloth, but my sock was brown.
And he was walking into the meeting, and he was like, oh crap, I need a cape. Yeah. And he took his sock off and cut it up.
That's amazing.
Yep, and they sold.
And it's so far-reaching, and I mean this in the absolute least name-droppy way possible. But I'm thinking back to all of the voice actors that I either met or coached with or whatever, and there are a handful of them that have done voices on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at one point or another. Rob Paulson, he came to OU.
He's huge.
Yeah. So I met him there. Eric Bauza, who. We're hoping
to get
him
on the show. Yeah,
cool. We've been in talks about getting him on. So hopefully one day. He's a very busy guy. Now, but he's been on it. So
on the Nickelodeon, because Nickelodeon's had it for quite. And we'll get there. That's the current owner.
Yes, Nick. Definitely
Viacom.
It's
right
but like you guys
they're like Disney can't have this. Viacom.
Yeah.
Those toys, though. I mean,
give it a few years. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
when Disney says, "Oh, we can't buy turtles,"
we're gonna need those.
I'll be right back.
But like the toys lead to the games, lead to more animations, lead to movies, lead to more toys, and it's from what I've seen anyway, and not just with TMNT, but just with a lot of these kind of bigger cartoony franchises. The toys are really what keeps these things afloat.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at like Pokemon, for example, the merchandising has made, it's so like over, I mean, I'm estimating, but like 50 times more money than the games ever have.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, we not only had the party wagon and the regular toys and the April O'Neil. By the way, smoke show. April O'Neil, first crush.
Yep.
But
yellow jumpsuit.
Oh, the yellow jumpsuit
All day.
Is there something wrong with me that mine was Gadget from Chipmunks? What is it? Chippendales Rescue Rangers?
Gidget?
Oh, Gidget.
Was it Gidget? I thought it was Gadget.
No, it was Gidget.
Gidget?
Yeah.
Oh, she had like the little goggles on her head?
Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah, no, that's... I mean, I'm not into animals anymore, but like...
No, it's okay, Zach. It's okay.
Zach, we're taking your cat away from you.
Oh, boy. No, but we also had, I remember my brother, and we broke them probably, but they were Transformer lines of turtles. They could turn into vehicles. They were... Oh, like you said, the video games we had, it was kind of like that and Ghostbusters. I remember we just had all these products, just this merchandise off of it, and then Star Wars event. When I really got into Star Wars, all the toys for that too.
And it worked out so well for a show, for a franchise like Turtles, anyway, because you could see the narrative that was made in the comic books, in the shows, in the games. Then you could act that out with your toys when you were a kid, and kind of build on that. It was like OG fan fiction.
Another big thing with this franchise was the live shows as well. coming out of their shell was the musical live show. Yeah. It was a rock show. And the weird thing is,
it's not good.
Now, I listened to another podcast called Podcast The Ride, and they did a whole where they talk about amusement parks or fairs, stuff like that. They like go into rides, or they'll talk about these kind of traveling shows. And one of them was turtles coming out of their shell. And they played some music from it. And it's like corny, 80s rock music. It's not too bad. But they discussed, they're like, when you look at, if you search that online, those turtle models, they didn't have shells. Literally, that's why it's called coming out of their shells. The idea was that they were able to get out of their shells, and it was easier to run around and rock. So it's weird turtles. There were all these different iterations.
They've got like jackets on.
If you were seeing the turtles in the movies, it was different than the turtles on the live shows, and it was also different from turtles you'd see in theme parks.
Right.
It was this weird, like, smattering of no cohesion.
I feel like licensing was very different back in that time.
That would not fly nowadays. If you went to see like Disney on Ice, and you saw like Mickey Mouse, but he was like kind of like had different colored eyes.
Times Square Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Your Elmo that's like kind of Elmo. But you would be very upset. Yeah. But it was just like, hey, we're seeing turtles live. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But then that brings me to what's one of my favorite topics, and I want to hear what you guys think about it. The live action turtle movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like that to me was like the quintessential amazing, like I could watch that movie over and over and over again.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think about that?
I lived with it. I mean, I grew up with it. I probably watched that stupid VHS tape. Both of them, 1 and 2. The third one, not as much.
I love Turtles in Time.
It was okay.
It was Yoshi.
I love the game Turtles in Time.
Not close to the game.
No, not at all. No, the first two though, like I watched that thing every day. I acted out every one of the fight scenes. Drove my mom crazy because I'd jump off furniture. And, I had
parkour,
plastic nunchucks I'd smack everything with. I'm sure the walls were all dinged up. Like
that's amazing.
I drove my parents crazy.
It's funny because from the first and the second movie, they almost describe the first movie as an independent film by the Jim Henson Corporation.
It is.
And it really is. Yeah. It really is. And I mean, as indie as you can be working for the Jim Henson. I mean, you're already backed with that. But it's fascinating. Those poor stunt workers in those suits. My gosh.
Well, yeah.
And I can't even imagine those mechanics of those heads. They said it was just, you were wearing like another 100 pounds of just
It was a computer, a robot, literally sitting on your head.
And you had to, and then do kung flu or like ninjutsu and stuff. And
You say kung flu?
Kung flu.
That's you.
And I also read that
Bless you.
It was kind of like the comics, how they were grittier at first. The first movie was grittier.
It was.
They actually used their weapons. In the second movie, they never use. Well, they don't use bladed weapons.
They only use blunt weapons.
They use the blunt
punching.
And I have to give some credit to Reddit because we always like to do some research on Reddit. The Reddit credit. Yeah, that should be our little. We'll record a little stinger. But we had Big Nicky Style. All right. And he/she said for a time the live action movie from 1990 was the highest grossing independent movie ever.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I mean, it makes sense because I didn't even realize that it was independent. The production quality is so high.
It is, but it's so good, like how it's gritty. The kids are getting brainwashed by the Foot Clan to just steal everything and bring it back, like gang activity. Yeah. It was this, I think, of the time, early 90s, it was like, especially in LA, there was like a lot of violence happening. Gang violence was on the rise. Like, so it was just that kind of, it was a weird idea, especially like brainwash. It was a cult almost. You felt this like weird presence, and the turtles were like this other weird, dark outside presence that were like, oh, we're going to be affected by this now.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about like the inclusion and exclusion of violence and how they tone it back or tone it forward. Like I was even hearing that in the UK, they changed the name to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles because they thought that ninja was too violent. That's too...
Yeah. Well, ninjas are assassins by trade. You know?
That's true.
And let's be honest, the turtles, like James Bond, are not good at their jobs.
Right.
Like, let's be honest. Like, as far as ninjutsu goes, they're terrible. Yeah. Like, it's...
The pizza diet, too. Like, you can't lend to
there
like a
was
body
one
figure.
Cool moment in the first Michael Bay movie, in the first Michael Bay Turtle movie, when they introduce the turtles really for the first time in that subway when the Foot takes over like a hostage situation.
Yeah.
And they start knocking out the lights and you're just seeing blurs of the turtles like taking these guys out. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But that's not going to last because Michael Bay has to crap up this whole movie and make it a monstrosity.
They're not
it's a
supposed
monstrosity.
to be that big.
They're
like
huge.
they're supposed to be like 5'3".
They're kind of shorter, I thought.
They are.
They're turtles.
They're like Wolverine. They're like tiny,
scrappy.
Like
Didn't they change it
They're
though?
like little balls of like they can go into their shells and like that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
But
wasn't the Michael Bay movie? Weren't they supposed to be like aliens or something? I heard like they weren't actually.
No,
turtles.
that's in the Michael Bay.
Yes.
It's the ooze came from outer space, which is dumb.
Which is also what they used in the 2012 Nick show, if we want to get into that later.
Yeah, I think because Nickelodeon produced the Michael Bay movie as well. So
Yes.
I think the continuity they were trying to keep. But they were like 8 to 9 feet tall. Johnny Knoxville was the voice of Leonardo.
Yeah.
I remember the guy, if anybody ever watched Blue Mountain State, there was this really funny show about college.
Yeah, that guy
I've
played
seen a little bit of that.
Thad Castle, the guy from that, and he's great. He's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's a really funny actor. Big athletic guy, but hilarious.
Their voices, I was actually cool
good.
with. I thought that was fine, but like
although you had Megan Fox as April O'Neil.
Eh.
Although Will Arnett was the cameraman. Who was
Vernon?
Yeah. Now, did they? I never saw the second one. I know Krang was in it. Bebop and Rocksteady were
I didn't
in
bother
it.
with it, honestly. I heard it was better, but I just didn't bother
I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
The Technodrome.
You can only handle so much, Michael Bay.
Now in the
You
second,
can only handle so much murdering your childhood.
Yeah,
you know?
really.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
really ruined it. But in the original second movie from 92 or something like that?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Something like
Secret
that.
of the Ooze.
Secret of the Ooze. There was it Toka and Razor?
Toka and Razor,
who were like, they're babies. That's all I remember. Oh, fun fact. Do you know who voiced Shredder?
Oh, yes.
in the
Darth
animated?
Vader guy, right?
Nope.
No,
In the animated series or in the movie?
I thought it was Darth Vader guy.
Nope.
Why am I blanking? What? Who?
It's another legendary large black actor.
James Earl Jones.
No. It was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Uncle Phil.
Yeah, Uncle Phil.
Yes!
Phil is
Okay,
the
I
voice
did
of
know
Shredder.
that.
Uncle Phil.
Yeah. I mean, they alter it too. They make it like super graphic.
Okay, that
but
makes
like
sense.
it's him. He's a huge voice. He was a huge voice actor. R.I.P.
Yeah.
He was he was all over the place. I found out we were at Disney this last April. He's all over those parks too, doing voices and stuff. He's like
sure.
he's Brer
I believe
Frog and Splash Mountain stuff like that. Yeah,
No
and I'm
way.
like, that's Uncle Phil. It was Tokar and Razor. I think everybody was super disappointed because that was supposed to be Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah. And I mean, they looked really cool. Like the creature design was
Jim
really
Henson.
neat.
Practical effects, guys.
Practical
and
effects.
that's Michael Bay.
And
Another reason why that sucked so
Yes,
bad.
I agree. And the pieces so like you were talking about how all of the all of the stuntmen and whatever that were wearing the suits, those suits they had to make like dozens of molds for each one of them because the leggings and stuff were foam. So like the foam would wear out as they were doing it and just rip or tear or whatever.
And the
or
sweat.
absorb so much
They were
water.
sweating so much. They said that they put another like 20 pounds of water weight just doing their scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would be passing out. I mean, they were champions. There's a lot of cool behind the scenes. And we talked about in another episode, Zach, about the mechanics of, I think, the Chucky doll.
Yes.
And it was the same thing,
yeah.
at least for the first movie, there was a guy, but like there were a couple people behind the cameras with controls doing the facial move, like radioing the facial movements. And then they do the voice acting after the fact, you know, and record it post. But
Man, that'd be hard.
Could you imagine, like, the helmet being the heaviest part of that outfit?
There's a video online where they show the guy doing, it was like years after the movie had already released or whatever, and they went back and they went into the props department and like took out the old computer and whatever, and it's running like MS-DOS from like 1990.
Right.
And this guy pulls out this, it looks like what you'd imagine the inside of Kermit the Frog's head to look like a typical thumb and four fingers kind of puppet thing.
Sure.
But each finger had its own like little action, and then like moving it forward and back, the whole head forward and back would do like different expressions and stuff. And it shows this guy operating.
crazy.
We'll have to watch it after this episode.
Yeah, that's cool. Well,
But
and maybe we'll post a link
might
to it
post
on
it.
our Instagram
it's
too.
really cool to watch. But, yeah.
I think too, it was saying that there were different versions of the suits too. I think whenever there were wide shots of them doing all the action, they didn't have those heads wouldn't move.
Yeah, they
were just like
stable heads,
basically stable heads. But they still said that like, it was just you couldn't see, you couldn't hear in them.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that. No. I don't know how long that production would have taken. I mean, and there's no better company to do it than the Henson Corporation, but. Man.
And Jim Henson, he was
before he passed away.
Yeah, he was kind of against it because it was like very dark and kind of violent. And he was like, I don't know if I want to put my name on this.
Yeah, because before that, like he had Dark Crystal, which is kind of his darkest. What would you say is it like? Yeah, Turtles.
Turtles. I mean,
I would think so.
As far as what
movie.
He's involved in, yeah. I mean, there's cursing and whatever, and
it's even. I like to think of it too. Like you think of his addition to movies. Did he help with Labyrinth?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He did Labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's funny because like the
Pluto
movies that he is like
yeah.
featuring, including like Star Wars, there's always like these puppets there's always a slight air of humor almost to like every little alien you see in Star Wars, or they're like the little like laughing guy, or like there's like a frog that burps, or it's like he definitely
there's whimsy to it.
There's a whimsical.
That's a good word for it.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's like the whimsy of those adventure movies of the 80s.
Yeah.
But Turtles, they took it and they're like, we're gonna put this whimsy in as dark a hole in the sewer and really like light it poorly.
Yeah.
And like that's what's gonna happen.
I think Michelangelo is like the only and I mean you get a few moments like Splinter does something like I made it funny.
Yeah.
Like okay, like
all right, yeah, that's
he's a good guy. Whatever.
And I remember Raphael getting like almost killed, like and they're like healing him in that house.
They throw him through a skylight.
Yeah, he like almost gets killed, and they're also pulling that's the introduction of the Turtles in Disguise, which is the funniest thing in the world. It's the turtles put on trench coats and fedoras.
Oh yeah,
and they suddenly like no one will notice that we're weird, or like they look like the guy on every like neighborhood sign, like the
neighborhood watch,
sign. Yeah, I'm like, what? So, this is not a costume.
No, it's bad.
As we can honestly sit in this era for 3 episodes, so I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to move us into the present of the franchise, which they still have a very successful show going on.
They do, on Nickelodeon.
Right now it's the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I believe.
The most recent, I had bought the game for GameCube, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think it was like 2010 or something.
I'm looking 11. Right now. They have had so many video games.
It was kind of like a reboot of I think it was right when Nickelodeon took over.
So the cartoons went through a bunch of iterations. So like you have like the late 80s and early 90s, which is like what we grew up with, like the super toony, goofy turtles or whatever. Yeah. And then you had
the theme song.
With the theme song. Yeah. And then you had the Next Mutation, which is like the live action TV show where they like crossed over with Power Rangers and like some other weird stuff. They introduced the female turtle.
Yep.
So like you had all that cool stuff, which was cool. And then after that, they went into a super serious early 2000s series.
I don't remember that.
It was by 4Kids Entertainment, I think, but it was really good, and it kept to the comics pretty well too. And it was a little bit darker for a cartoon series. The problem, and the fan base is like super upset about this. The problem is that it never got a collection. So, like, if you wanted to go back and rewatch it, you've got to buy these individual DVDs.
Oh, that's
because the rights after that got split up, and then Nickelodeon bought it, and they did their 2012 series.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of went through a slope period where, like, the kids weren't really into Turtles in between, and then the Nickelodeon revived them. And the first Nickelodeon series, which was just TMNT, was amazing. Like was
that the one where they had like the white eyes and it was like a little more
they had normal eyes, and then what would happen is they would go into like a ninja mode. So like say like, they had to fight an enemy and they got super serious and they weren't goofing around or like cracking jokes or whatever. Their eyes would go white and they'd go into like this ninja mode, and
kind of look like the old cartoon.
Animation would change,
or the old comic book. White eyes, like you don't see their pupils and stuff. So that was and it looked cool.
It was really good, and the toys were cool, and like they kind of got back on top of their game.
Now that it's like a weird CGI, they look
it's bad,
kind of dumbed down. Like Donatello has the gap tooth.
Well, that was the last one.
That was the last one.
Characterized him in the last one with that. The Rise one is like more futuristic and kind of techy, and they've kind of rearranged the group. So like Raphael, they're all different types of turtles now. So like One of them's like a red-eared slider, and one of them's a painted turtle, and one of them's like a box.
Oh, okay.
Now I saw some awesome concept art for before they showed what Michael Bay's were going to look like, and that was the idea that they would be 4 separate, so different heights, different builds, and they looked badass. But
I'm all for that.
They ruined it. Awesome. Then they didn't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like.
But the Rise one, they even made Raphael's like the leader of the group now.
What?
And yeah, it just because he's apparently the oldest turtle or whatever.
Well,
so
I don't care.
Takes lead.
Donatello's the leader. No, I'm sorry, Leonardo's the leader.
Where
sorry, Leonardo. Well, let's say who's our favorites right now. I know Mike's.
I don't know. It used to be Michelangelo.
I thought it was going to be Mikey, but
for sure. But I think I'm more into like Donatello. They characterized him really cool in the last couple things, and I think he's pretty cool.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I never really got attached to one over the other.
I was always Donatello. I love Donatello. The bow staff. I always played as him in the games and stuff. In
the game, he always had a strategic advantage because he had like the most reach.
He's got gadgets.
In every one, the bow staff would go a few.
They kind of made him in love with April in the newer versions. I heard he had a crush on her, so I was like, all right, I don't know about that. Because Casey Jones is another character that we've kind of skipped over.
Yeah, we kind of did.
Casey Jones he wears the hockey mask. He's an ally of the Turtles. He beats dudes up with sports equipment, basically. Like baseball bats, hockey sticks, golf clubs. Again, so. He has in the first movie, doesn't he just carry around like a golf bag filled with like hockey
he's got a
duffel bag with just a bunch of crap in it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's the true love interest, I think, of April because he's another human character. Yeah. It's the kind of like, okay, well, these turtles can't,
right.
That'd be weird.
They're not going to do anything.
They can all have crushes on her. I think that's more of a fun, like, oh yeah, she's a babe, but like,
she's a babe.
She's a babe. Yeah, like, that.
Wayne's World crossover coming soon.
And,
turn up the TV.
And it was cool too. I like the idea, like kind of in that idea, they were all skateboarders too. They had the van. It was like, They had punks. Their gadgets. They had,
They were punks. They were the quintessential. I said that twice this episode. I need to get a new word. They were the quintessential, but they were just this stereotypical 80s, 90s punks.
It was like the Bart Simpson effect. You put them on a skateboard, you make them quick talking, snappy. Snappy turtles.
They sold a style, which is kind of unique. Like there's not a lot of other franchises out there where you can be like, oh, they sold a style. Like He-Man. Like nobody was walking around with like tight briefs and like leather straps across their chest.
Even
I have the power.
Even though it took place in New York City, they were surfer dudes. Yeah. Which of the time as well, you had your Bill and Ted's, that way, like Wayne's World was kind of like of the early and mid 90s.
Yeah.
It was a definite character that people were playing. And it was, and I mean, some more than others. I think Michelangelo being like most like, dude, like he's the most kind of fun like
comic
that.
Relief,
but and it added so much more, I think, like that helped bring in the kids or like the youth. They're like, this will just be even more like,
Well, and then so I guess as we kind of transition here into the future of the franchise, I'm trying to think of different ways that we can sort of keep the current audience, right? Because you have to keep the kids interested. This is at its core, it's something that was designed for kids to enjoy a cool action.
Was it though? The first graphic novels.
I guess I shouldn't say at its core, but what it became, and I mean, by the time it became popular,
And let's be honest, I'm not calling for like hard reboot, adult only. No, it is for. It's like all the fanboys who get butthurt about Star Wars.
Look at the most
core.
recent,
this is for 12-year-olds.
Look at the most recent Hellboy movie. It's like hard reboot, hard R rating, and
it does not work.
Like just really not.
And I'm not saying that it has to be for like children, but make it for like young teens.
PG-13.
PG-13.
Let's see. Let's go back to like the first movie,
the Night Before Deadpool kind of thing, where you like.
Well, and our generation is going to love it no matter what, so they don't have to worry about that. Well, I shouldn't say no matter what. As long as they do,
we're harsh critics.
As long as they do it justice and they don't try to twist everything out of proportion like Michael Bay did.
Yeah.
If they stick a little bit true to that original, I think our generation will like it, if not only for nostalgia's sake. But I mean, what do you guys want to see out of the future? Let's the big two that we always do: movie/TV show and possible video game futures. I mean, what do you think?
I'd be down for a series, like a Netflix series or something along those lines. I would like live action, practical effects. Give me turtles in suits. You could do the hybrid. Do CGI for the faces, for the movements and stuff, or like add it in, like kind of like how they did for Yoda in Last Jedi. It was like 90% practical, 10% just to help animation.
Right.
Do something like that. Don't give it a little bit of lightness. I'm not talking Go Ninja Go, not the Vanilla Ice Ninja Rap. It's so funny. 1 and 2 are such a juxtaposition from each other. They truly are.
Kind of.
They are like two very different sides of almost not the same coin. Like it's almost taking like Godfather and then doing a cartoon version of the Godfather. Like literally.
Now let me ask you guys this. Do you think that it would be too far-fetched? Because like I was saying before, I think they need to stay true to their roots, but to reboot it in such a way that they still have the same personality, same everything, but maybe it's, 1,000 years in the future and these turtles have been found and they're not doing well. Like, they're kind of on their last leg and they sort of get, like you were saying with the cartoon, like they get a little bit like techie almost, where it can keep it grounded in that sort of nostalgic. They still have their same personalities, but then that does open it up a little bit to them being a little bit more animated, still have that live action feel, but to mix it in.
And technology's always been a huge part of the show. I mean, Baxter, the scientists, I mean, all the
I think there's a way to advance the technology without ruining the series.
Yeah. No, and that'd be cool. Put in a Fallout-esque, not Fallout, but like they've literally mutated. Over thousands of years. That would be an interesting take.
I think that'd be fine. I do like the idea of breaking them out and making them into their own individual types of turtles and maybe have that play into their personalities because Raphael's a snapping turtle. So like he's got a short temper and he doesn't like to be screwed with or whatever. I'm fine with that. I don't mind making April and Casey like main characters. That's fine.
They could almost be the main characters. They're the audience's way in. April O'Neil being the main character, and then the turtles come in like Mad Max.
They are. They're your gateway. They're your realistic gateway into the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the relatable character.
What about gaming? What do we think on the gaming front? Do you have any ideas on that?
They came out with a game not too long ago. Maybe probably within like the last 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2016 was the last.
Out of the Shadows.
Yeah.
And it was
just another.
It was a 4-player beat 'em up it was 3D, but it was like it was essentially what would happen if you took the side scroller beat 'em up Konami games and made it into a 3D game.
Where could that go then? Like what would you want to see?
There was a rumor for a while that the same team that was behind the Batman games, the Arkham games, was going to create a
Is
Ninja
that Rocksteady? The company's Rocksteady. That works out.
It is actually ironic.
I heard they were also thinking about getting Superman rights and trying to make a good Superman game.
Makes
it's
such
an impossible
a bad game though.
An impossible
you can't put them up against anything.
Yeah.
There was one take when they did the Superman Returns game for the terrible movie. They made the city have a health bar, which was interesting. So you're trying to be Superman. But anyway, I was thinking for a video game, let's do a Smash Brothers type beat 'em up. Let's not have put them in an arena. Let's just have an arena fighter.
That'd be cool.
Not Mortal Kombat, because they did put them in Mortal Kombat 10, right?
Or
I think the turtles were in it.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah,
they were DLC.
The
but and each it was kind of cool because like each character, like it was one character with 4 different skins, but each skin had its own sayings.
That's cool. And
it was pretty cool.
That's neat.
I like that. I think like why not make an RPG kind of game? Because
that would also
I was just gonna say
in the Turtles world, the last iteration made it so that whatever you touched before you got hit with ooze was what you got melded with.
Yeah.
So like if you got hit, if you touched a gecko, or if a gecko touched a human and then the gecko got hit with the ooze, the gecko became humanized. So which explained why the turtles became humanized, is because the last thing they touched was a human. Yeah. So why not create like an RPG kind of thing where you can choose your animal and have different perks and stuff based on your animal?
That was almost exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
And the turtles can be coming in and out helping you. You're like working with them.
Yeah.
That'd be really neat. It could be a whole idea that
they're a subcontractor.
That like the world has been ooze has been weaponized. And there's a bunch more mutants now.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea.
There was a team in the books and in the cartoon recently. It was called the Mighty Mutanimals. And it was like 4 or 5 different animals, like Petey Pigeon. And like some of them are just really stupid. But like it was kind of a cool concept. And I think that it's been around forever.
You know what else could be a lot of fun is do a... almost like a... what's that game? The Friday the 13th game? Not quite like that, but do one where instead of hiding...
Slasher?
Instead of hiding, it'd be like what was the one that was really terrible? Evolve. So maybe there's one player plays as some crazy enemy and the other 4 plays the turtles.
Oh yeah,
and you have
I
to
remember
go
that.
so like that, I think that could be a lot of fun too. It would give the chance to pick from some of the the franchise's coolest enemies and have them in various states of evolution. So if
if they get more ooze, like Shredder becomes Super Shredder.
Yeah,
right.
When he gets ooze on
and
it.
that could be the goal is the enemy is to get more ooze.
And same thing for you. If you get your hands on some ooze, you level your guy, or you
kind of like
limit break for a while.
A collectathon kind of.
Where it's like it's a little bit of a race, it's a little bit of a try to find the enemy and kill him first sort of deal.
That'd be kind of fun.
Because I think like a kind of if there's an open world or an adventure, it wouldn't work as well. But an RPG, or it's got to stay in that beat 'em up RPG, or you could even do like. The RPG could be Kingdom Hearts style, where it's that kind of fight mechanic. So you're doing combinations with your teammates, but you don't have to control them, but it's still not turn-based.
Or like Diablo or Ultimate Alliance.
That would be great too.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot. Like
you're giving me a very City of Heroes, City of Villains vibe.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool too.
Yeah.
But you guys we're kind of at our time limit for today. This is one of those, and I always say this like every week, but this for sure is one of those that we could talk about for like 6 episodes very easily. I mean, we almost did on just the first 2 movies.
I know, we got stuck on the movies. And
it's easy. And
we're not moving on.
They're
from
great
this
things
topic.
to get stuck on. I mean, I was thinking that we were going to get stuck on the Turtles in Time video game because that was huge for me.
That game was crazy. I had a Sega growing up, so I had Hyperstone Heist, which was like the port for Sega.
Yeah,
but still really good.
It was when we played it on. Wes and I played it on 10 out of 10 back in the day. I think we did. Gosh, I'd have to go back and check. We that channel's pretty much inactive now. But yeah, you guys, we're just so grateful that you guys stopped in and listened. Thank you to everybody on Reddit who submitted facts and trivia for us.
Yes, huge. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Thank
Anything
you guys
want to plug? Any?
No, not really.
He's just Mike.
It's just Mike.
It's just me.
It's just Mike, just hanging out with us.
What was my name? The
soggy
boy.
Soggy boy.
At soggy_B0I.
Soggy boy.
Hit me up on Instagram. Hashtag soggy boy.
I maybe don't.
I swear, if anyone actually hits me up on Instagram, it would make my life. Just a hashtag soggy boy.
Hashtag soggy boy.
I'll check it out.
Keep an eye out for it. But yeah, and then as per usual, you can follow us on Instagram at Franchise Unpacked. You can follow me on Instagram at the Zach Rogers,
and you can follow me on Instagram at the Dave of Wonders.
And I think that about covers it. We have a bunch of awesome franchises coming up. We have a bunch more awesome guests coming up. Yeah. So, if you guys can do us a huge favor, pop over to iTunes or wherever you guys listen. Give us a like, give us a 5-star review, write a review, comment. It's that whole like, comment, subscribe thing.
Tell your friends.
It honestly, people underestimate how big of a difference it truly does make.
It's good. Subscriptions are huge.
Yeah. So anything that you guys feel like doing, we definitely appreciate it. And you know what? We just appreciate you nerds for listening in anyway.
There it was.
There it is. It's been a day. It's been a long, rainy, cold, too cold for August day.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, also, it was my birthday.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Birthdays.
I didn't know that.
Also, Mike just got engaged a few weeks ago. So
yes,
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I totally forgot to say that earlier.
Very much.
Brought that up at the beginning.
Yeah, we totally should have. It's
her Instagram hashtag the soggy girl.
Soggy boy, soggy girl. That'll be like on the wedding invites. They always have like the wedding hashtag.
Wedding. How great would that be? Man.
I kind of want that to happen now.
Hope it sticks.
Honey, I've got news for us.
Right? There's no going back. It's on the podcast. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Catch you later.
Later.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is Sonic the Hedgehog. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. And be sure to share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.